This comes to us from Pirate Nation, who says, former Dragon Age director says EA's new owners won't censor BioWare's progressive messaging unless they want apocalyptic backlash, which is classic narcissism from woketards. I'm not surprised whatsoever. I even wrote, ha ha ha, ha shit, thank you. I needed a good laugh. Bass player, thank you for posting this. This is what came to mind when I read that. The Kim Belair speech of scaring people into buying shit. This is them.
If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher ups. And if they don't see the value in what you're asking for, when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want.
This is the indoctrination of the woketards that work at these companies, where they are so narcissistic, where they think that, no, the Saudis can't censor us. They can't get rid of the gay unless they want apocalyptic backlash. Bro, I don't know how to tell you this, but if Saudis came out tomorrow and were like, yeah, we're going to get rid of all this woke slop in gaming. We're not going to allow that in any of the games moving forward. There would not be apocalyptic backlash. There'd be a bunch of crying on Blue Cry, and we'd be all laughing at it. And then we'd go on our merry way purchasing their games in the future. And we'd all live happily ever after. The article comes to us from The Gamer, who says, former Dragon Age director says EA's new owners won't censor BioWare's progressive messaging unless they want apocalyptic backlash. It says the $55 billion acquisition of EA from Censorship, including Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, Jared Kushner's affinity partners, and Silver Lake, has been causing a stir among fans of the various series owned by EA. Fans of EA-owned BioWare are concerned about the involvement of PIF due to the prevalence of progressive messaging in the studio's series, which I got to be honest, this is cope. Fans of BioWare are concerned? No, they're not. Wokies are concerned. The people that don't buy the games are concerned that the message is going to get eroded. The people that didn't buy the games and Dragons of Failguard failed so hard that BioWare is about to go under right now, and they had to lay off so many people, and Mass Effect 4 or 5, if you count Andromeda, is on the verge of being canceled. You want to say that those fans, the ones that didn't support anything, are the ones that count? Which people fear may be under threat. Homosexuality is illegal in Saudi Arabia. Which, by the way, I'm not going to say based upon that, because if people want to be gay, have at it. I don't have any issues with gay people. Just don't put that shit in my games and try to push it on kids. That's all I say when it comes to that. I've always had that perspective. With the country's laws allowing the use of the death penalty for individuals engaging in homosexual acts, which is crazy, by the way. We're also talking about Saudi Arabia, the same place where if you have a nip of vodka in your bag and you get off a plane and it gets caught by security, you go to jail for over 10 years. So I'm not surprised. Saudi Arabia is pretty nuts when it comes to this stuff. Speaking of pretty nuts, this is based off of a video from Mark Darrah, who I've covered before on this channel, and he is knucking futz. This guy's crazy in every sense of the word. And he says in his video, if this is a PR move for the Saudi government as much as a financial one, the studio that don't have much of a track record, what you might do is just come in and put your thumb on the scale and push their messaging in the directions you want. Or at the very least, steer them away from messaging that makes you look bad. Based? What's the problem with that? So here we go. I fast forwarded to the part. This is EA goes private for $55 billion. This is the part of the 20-minute video, the segment where he's talking about BioWare. And I found the most interesting part. I haven't watched the whole part of this, but let's hear Mark Darrah out, because good Lord, here we go again with this guy.
But for the studios that have more of a track record, especially a track record that maybe doesn't line up with your own political views.
Is the lighting weird, or does he have a green screen behind him? Because it feels like his body is like a different shade than the background. It's very strange.
Again, BioWare, you're going to look at that studio and wonder how you make them fit into your new structure. It's hard to imagine that you have BioWare pivot from having very progressive messaging to having the reverse, because it's what the government wants. It's hard to imagine that the public perception of a game that comes out of BioWare, even if you do that, isn't apocalyptically bad. So in that case,
So in his mind, if I'm understanding correctly, it is apocalyptically bad if Saudi Arabia comes in and says, keep the gay shit out of the game moving forward. That apparently is apocalyptically bad. Because why? Art? Like why? Like, here's the thing. I used to actually be on the other side of the fence where I was like, no, don't impact or influence these people. Let them make what they want. And then you see them co-opt beloved franchises and burn them to the ground with pushing bullshit narratives in them that nobody wants. And it's at the point where if you're hiring these woketards, the only way to change it is to tell them either you're gone or you don't do this shit. One or the other. You can make the most whimsical adventure that you want. Keep the trans shit out of it. Keep the gay shit out of it. Just make the fantasy game. Have fun in your fantasy adventure. You know, I loved Gauntlet back in the day. You know what Gauntlet didn't have in it? Gay shit. It was just dungeon adventure. It was amazing. But nowadays, with more technology, they're like, hey, now that we have the ability to put gay shit and stuff, let's do it.
You either have to decide that you're willing to just leave it alone, or you have to think that they don't fit anymore within the goals of this new organization. Now, I don't know how active this Saudi investment fund has been in pushing its politics into the groups.
They haven't at all, by the way. There is no record of them doing that yet. Not saying that they won't do it, but there's no record of that I've seen that they've done that yet. But it's kind of funny seeing all these wokies in the game industry like running around like the studio's on fire right now because they just got purchased by Saudi Arabia. They're like, oh shit, we can't be doing gay shit anymore.
That it invests in. Sometimes these investment funds are very active. Sometimes they are very hands-off. I'm not actually aware enough of the actions that they've taken to know one way or the other, but it is going to be a factor going forward. In the past, I've talked...
He's not wrong, by the way. Like, it is going to be a factor going forward. How people react to it, I think, is going to be very different.
About how EA doesn't sell IPs, and the reason for that is in large part because the individuals who would be responsible for making those decisions, for looking for those opportunities, are actually incentivized to not take risks, that they are incentivized to not be the person who sold an IP that then turned into a billion-dollar franchise, that their actual incentives are to do nothing because that keeps them from getting into trouble.
That's actually a very good point. Credit where it's due. I had always wondered about that, and what he just said makes a shitload of sense. That now we know why EA does not sell off their IPs. Okay, I'm with you. Credit where it's due, Mark. You got one there. Okay.
But as this deal closes, those incentives could radically change. We could enter into a situation where now the incentives are to shed costs or generate revenue, if at all possible. We need to
generate revenue, because it's not shedding costs for a dead IP. It doesn't cost you anything. But to generate money, yes.
To generate revenue, to pay down as much debt as we can, as quickly as we can, we need to cut costs to give us more wiggle room to make sure that we are not in a dangerous position when servicing our debt. So suddenly, people who have spent their careers trying to keep their heads down and not do anything that might get them in trouble in the future might suddenly find themselves in a situation where what they really need to do is sell as much as they can. EA has a huge repository of dormant IPs that are just sitting there
They
dormant. It seems unlikely that the new resulting structure is going to be eager to suddenly revive a bunch of those IPs. So one option might be to sell the whole lot of them for $100 million. If you
That's not that. I mean, maybe I'll eat my words, but that's not how selling an IP works. You don't sell your entire lot of all these IPs for $100 million. Typically, you find an interested party that wants to buy a specific IP, and you individually sell that IP to them. You don't Costco 2-pack of pianos these to people.
you get it because $100 million can come off the debt. You might even see them toying with the idea of shedding some of their existing studios. Maybe they shut them down, but maybe they look for opportunities to sell off entire studios or entire groups. Like I said, it makes a ton of sense for this new group to want EA Sports whole and strong and continuing doing what it's doing. EA Entertainment, the other group that is focused on other kinds of more traditional non-sports related games, may make a lot less sense.
It by the way, credit where it's due. I went into this video thinking this is going to be a terrible video. He's making a banger point after banger point right now. It's like, yeah, damn, that's impressive. And yeah, this is the problem with EA right now. Their money makers are their sports games, FIFA or whatever they call it now, FC or whatever, and Madden. Those are their money makers. That's it. Their Dragon Age, Mass Effect, those are money suckers. They're losing money oftentimes. Anthem, BioWare is crushing them right now. Many of their other studios not bringing in the money like their sports are.
So you could imagine potentially all of EA Entertainment being sold off to another group with deep pockets, like, say, Sony.
No. I don't think Sony would buy BioWare. I think that'd be a very poor financial decision, because whoever needs to buy, well, he's referencing BioWare basically with these IPs. Whoever wants to buy BioWare needs to revive the company and the IPs that are on life support right now. So you would be paying pennies on the dollar to buy it from them if you were going to do that. And it wouldn't be worth the sale. People would just be like, no, we'll just do our own thing. Why would we buy that? Why would Sony want to make another Dragon Age game after what just happened?
This deal has been in the works for a while. It is conceivable that EA's new structure was intentionally conceived with this action in mind. Or you could imagine that what happens is this new EA plucks all the parts it wants out of EA Entertainment and then sells off whatever's left over. And so what you end up with is this collection of studios that either haven't shipped a game ever or in a long time, and studios which have had a lot of trouble.
I think, by the way, I'm not going to keep going on this, but I think he makes a lot of good points. I think that there will be some shifting of studios sold off by EA. I don't think EA proper is going to sell off everything but their sports to someone else. Again, I'll eat my words if they do that, but I feel like there will be some movement of some studios going to some companies. Yes, I agree with him on that. I just think it's funny right now, just bringing it back to the Gamer article, which I almost feel like kind of misrepresents his point a little bit here. I didn't really get this vibe when he was talking about BioWare, about what they say in the Gamer. I feel like they kind of took his word apocalyptic and manipulated it into a title to make it seem worse than it really was. But at the end of the day, even if this is the case, I just find it hysterical, because who cares? Who cares what these wokies think? All they did was destroy games. And at the end of the day, no one's going to lose any sleep over it. Who put this into a game? This is going to go down in history in the pantheons of Concords, to be like, yes, Tosh was one of those things that destroyed not just a game, not just a franchise, but an entire studio. That's the power that these writers have. They wield such immense power, and how flippant it is for a company like BioWare to hire people like Trick Weeks and Corinne Bush alongside other questionable characters at your company making this kind of shit, approving this kind of shit, moving forward with this kind of shit, and then being like, oh, I guess we'll just leave and fail upwards. No one learned anything as companies continue to fail over and over again. But yeah, I will leave that one there.